For so many international students, coming to Australia is all about opportunity. But a brand new report is showing a pretty tough reality. Once they graduate, the job market is, well, it's a lot harder for them than for local students. So today, we're going to dive into the 2024 Graduate Outcomes Survey and figure out what's really going on.
Okay, let's just start with one number, a big one, 32%. That's the gap, the difference in getting a full-time job between an international postgraduate student and a domestic one, just a few months after graduating. That is a massive, massive difference. So, right away, you have to ask the big question, right? Why is that gap so incredibly wide, especially at the postgraduate level? You'd think that's where qualifications would really level the playing field. Well, we're going to dig into the three main reasons the report points to.
All right, to really get this, we've got to start from the ground up. Let's first take a look at the numbers for undergrads and see how this whole story starts to build. So check this out. Right from the get-go, at the undergraduate level, there's already a huge gap. A little over half of international grads are finding full-time work, compared to almost 3/4 of domestic students. That's a difference of more than 21 percentage points right out of the gate. But here is where things get really, really interesting. Look what happens at the postgraduate level. The rate for international grads, it barely budges, right? Just up to 56%. But for domestic grads, whoa, it shoots up to over 88%. And boom, that's it. That's where the gap explodes to that 32-point difference we started with. So, what is happening here? Okay, so what is causing this massive divide? The report breaks it down into three key things. And the first one, it might not be what you think. It's not just about the degree they got. It's about, well, who these graduates actually are. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Look at this. More than 75% of international postgraduate students are 30 or younger. Now compare that to domestic students. It's only about a third. What does that tell you? It's a pretty strong hint that international students are coming into their master's programs with a lot less real-world work experience under their belts. And the report itself spells this out loud and clear. It says that domestic students are often already in their careers, they're older, and they're just using a master's to upskill. So, of course, they're going to have better job outcomes. They're not starting from zero. They're building on an existing career. But that experience factor, that's only one piece of the puzzle. The next piece is all about the different journeys these graduates take right after they finish that first degree. Wow, just look at these numbers. A full third of international undergrads go straight into more full-time study, like a master's degree. That is almost double the rate of domestic students. So they're not even trying to enter the workforce yet. They're staying in the education system.
And this is what connects everything together. See, because so many international students just roll from one degree straight into the next. Their work experience level, well, it doesn't change. So their job prospects after a master's degree end up looking a whole lot like the prospects after a bachelor's degree. And that explains why we saw that employment rate barely move for them.
Okay, so we've got the experience gap and the different study paths. But there's a third factor here, and honestly, it might be the biggest one of all. The actual systemic barriers that international graduates run into when they try to find a job here in Australia. So when these grads were asked, hey, why are you in a job that doesn't even use your new skills? These were their top answers. Not enough work experience is number one, no surprise there. But look at the next one. Do not have permanent residency. That is a massive roadblock that domestic students just don't have. It really points to some serious hurdles with visas and maybe what employers are looking for. But wait. This story isn't all doom and gloom. Not at all. In fact, the report shows there's a really important twist here. It turns out that what you study can completely change the game.
The difference is just staggering. It's like night and day. If you're an international graduate with a dentistry degree, you're looking at a 93% full-time employment rate. That's incredible. But if your degree is in communications, that drops all the way down to about 32%. It just goes to show, when there's a huge demand for a specific skill, like in healthcare or teaching, that big employment gap we've been talking about, it can practically disappear.
And it's not just about getting the job, it's about the paycheck too. And this part is really fascinating. In a field like nursing, where Australia is desperate for workers, the median salary for an international grad is basically the same as for a domestic one. It's a pretty powerful message, right? When the skills are needed badly enough, the market pays for the talent, no matter where you're from.
Okay. So let's pull all of this together. What's the big picture? When you look at all the pieces, there are really three clear things driving this whole graduate employment gap.
First, you've got experience and age. Domestic postgrads are just older and already have careers. Second, it's the study path. international students are way more likely to just keep studying, going from one degree to the next without getting that work experience. And finally, number 3, those systemic barriers, things like visa status and not having local experience, are real hurdles that are pretty much unique to them.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? This report makes it crystal clear that there's a huge disconnect. You have these incredibly talented international graduates with world-class qualifications on one side and their actual job outcomes on the other. So the real question we have to ask is, how do universities, employers, and the government all work together to finally close this gap? How do we unlock the massive potential of all this global talent right here in Australia?